Hi, everyone. This is April Garrett. I am the publisher of the Seniors Blue Book. Thank you so much for joining us today for SBB Live. Today's topic is going to be death and taxes, having the uncomfortable conversations. I'd first like to welcome our panel of experts. Let's introduce Ashley Sherrick, founder of Sherrick Law Office. How are you today, Ashley?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for having
well.
me.
Absolutely. Aaron Weber, Vice President with the Weber Group at Heffron Tillotson. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing well. Hello, everyone.
And Anna Marie Kajenka, who is an agent with New York Life Insurance Company. How are you doing, Anna Marie?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So let's just dive into this uncomfortable conversation topic. So Ashley, starting with you, what happens if you do not have a will?
So in Pennsylvania, if you pass away without a will, you go through the process known as intestacy, which means you do not have a will and you're at the state's discretion for how your items get distributed. A lot of times I'll talk with people and they'll tell me, well, I'm married and I don't have a will, so everything will go to my spouse. That's kind of the general assumption that people have, is that if they're married, everything goes to their spouse if they pass away, whether or not they have a will in place. If you do not have a will and you pass away, and you have a spouse and children, everything does not go to your spouse. A portion of it does go to your children. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that if you don't have a will, there is no necessarily default person. And it can get more complicated if you have a blended family. So there's definitely not a surefire answer with that. And that is why having a will in place is always the best option.
And what is probate?
Probate is, again, the state's process for how we distribute those items. So most people think the goal of probate is to make sure that their items get distributed to their beneficiaries, which that would be the goal. You know, that's kind of what everyone's purpose is when they pass away. Probate is actually to make sure that Pennsylvania gets their inheritance tax money that is owed to them, and also so that any creditors that are out there are able to come forward and make a claim against the estate. The probate process is completely public, so everyone knows your business, everyone knows everything about your estate, what it's worth, who your beneficiaries are, where they live. It's a lot of information, especially with today's technology, that you're kind of handing to somebody on a silver platter. So probate is how Pennsylvania basically accounts for any debts that are owed and tax that is owed to them. They're not really concerned about the heirs and what you actually want to be distributed. And that process usually takes anywhere from 1 to 2 years in Pennsylvania.
I'm going to bounce around on you guys. So what is the difference between estate tax and inheritance tax?
So estate tax is a federal estate tax. So most of us right now do not have a federal estate tax issue. Right now, we're at $11.2 million per person. If you're married, that amount doubles. However, that rule is currently due to sunset in 2025. So that amount will likely lower and could impact more individuals. However, everybody has an estate tax, an inheritance tax issue here in Pennsylvania. So there is no threshold dollar amount for when Pennsylvania charges inheritance tax. If you owe, $1 that's going to be distributed to someone, there is inheritance tax owed on that. So a lot of times people will say that they don't want to pay estate tax, and we actually kind of drill down and clarify that actually, usually they're talking about Pennsylvania inheritance tax, because that's something that is applicable to everyone in Pennsylvania, whereas the federal estate tax is not something that most of us have a concern about right now.
So Aaron, what are the biggest concerns regarding taxes when someone passes away?
So I think she brought up, a lot of great points with that. A lot of the things that we need to be obviously aware of is the federal estate tax, but I think it's close to over 99% of people are not going to face that federal estate tax issue. So it's definitely something you just want to be mindful of, though. But I think whenever it comes to the taxes, speaking to someone like an attorney is making sure you have your legal documents in place is a big part of that, to make sure that the taxes aren't such a big issue for you. But again, being aware that there is a federal estate tax if your income threshold is beyond that $11 million.
Are there any new tax issues that people need to be aware of?
So with, a lot of the new things, obviously with COVID come in place is the Secure Act, which came in place January of 2020, which before beneficiaries had the opportunity to take the amount out of an inherited IRA over their lifetime. Now, unfortunately, that has to be done over a 10-year period. So those taxes are now being consolidated a lot quicker than they used to in the past. So this is a really, really big tax hit for people that, again, that are inheriting an IRA from someone, especially if it is a large sum. So that's something that we want to be aware of. Again, when you're inheriting that, those taxes are going to be coming a lot quicker than they used to.
And what should someone do to help prepare for the inevitable future and any tax implications that may involve?
So I think a big thing this is you want to find an advisor to work with to help ensure that you can mitigate your tax obligations. And the sooner that you talk to someone, the better you're going to be in the long run, right? You want to make sure you're talking to someone that you can trust and someone that's going to listen to you, because you want to find someone that has dealt with a person that has been in a similar situation as you, right? The problem is I think we don't start planning until it's too late. Unfortunately, we don't know the inevitable future. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So the sooner that we can start planning for that, the sooner we can start having these conversations, the easier it's going to be in the long run. And the one thing that we need to remember, it's not necessarily for us, right? It's for our loved ones to make sure that everything is in place and everything is easier for them when that inevitable future does come, but we don't know when that will be.
So Anna Marie, how does the uncertainty of life expectancy affect retirement income planning?
Well, retirement income planning is really easy if you can answer one question, and that is, when are you going to die? Of course, nobody has that crystal ball. So longevity is actually a bell curve. So 50% of people actually pass before their expected life, their life expectancy, and 50% will live much longer. And with all of the medical improvements and technology today, the longer you live, the longer you are likely to live. Because if you're 65 today, 75% of your chances are that you will live to 95. So imagine in the last 30 years what a cell phone was like 30 years ago. So all the technology that will come to play while you are retired, the fear is that people will outlive their money. So there are vehicles that you can put into place that will actually, with one premium, guarantee income for the rest of your life, just like another pension check.
What are the strategies people use today to protect against market downturns in our low interest rate environment?
Again, this is all very individualized because it depends on what your time horizon is and what assets you have. So depending if you need the money in 3 years or 15 years or even 20 years. So if the market is down and you're young, that's not a bad thing because you're buying. But if you're within 5 years of retiring, either before or after, that changes and there's a big switch to that. So there are vehicles that you can actually guarantee your principal so that if the markets are up, you win, but if the markets take a downturn, you don't lose.
With the rising cost of healthcare, what are current solutions used to help fund an extended healthcare if needed?
Well, I think by now people are probably familiar with the traditional long-term care where you pay a premium and get the protection. But there are newer programs that not everybody is aware of that will actually allow you to pass that on to somebody else if you don't use it, or take back the principal if you need the funds. And there's also recently from a tax law a couple of years ago, there is a vehicle that will allow you to use qualified IRA money. So you can actually push that out until age 85. So a lot of people at that age wouldn't be risking the investments as far as growth, but that will actually grow guaranteed at 10 to 15%. So that's another option that people can earmark those funds for long-term care if needed. And they really don't even have to go through underwriting for that either, which is a plus.
And Ashley, I'm going to throw it back to you. What is the benefit of a trust?
So when we talked earlier about probate, the benefit of a trust is that is basically a will substitute. So that avoids probate. You keep control of everything. It takes it out of the state's hands and you're able to kind of control where everything goes and how it passes. It's also a great way to catch assets that typically have beneficiaries on them that would pass to that person outright. And maybe you want to keep it in trust for them until they're 30 or 35. So a trust is a really great vehicle for that. That would be a living trust. We also get into other types of trusts if we are looking to protect assets, as somebody's going into needing nursing home care or skilled nursing. We put trust assets into an irrevocable trust, and we're able to shelter them so that they can qualify for nursing home care. So there's different types of trusts for depending on the strategy, but the benefit of the trust is you don't need your will anymore. You have a trust in its place, and you're avoiding that public record probate process that most people go through if they have a will.
So I'm going to throw you each a question. So if we had to do a quick takeaway from this whole conversation on death and taxes, why should someone call you? Ashley, you're up first.
I think Erin mentioned it, that the more, as soon as you can get in front of somebody that you know and trust, to work with somebody and really have them drill into what your goals are, what's important to you, what are you looking to accomplish with your plan? That's what I help my clients with. So, having that conversation, figuring out, do we want to avoid probate? Do we want to make sure assets are protected if you would need long-term care? All of those things in between, making sure that we're taking into account tax implications and things that you're inheriting from other family members. That is what my process and my plan goes through. So we can make sure that we're putting a plan in place that will work for them when they need it. Because everyone's situation is different, so everyone is going to need a different type of plan, but that's where my firm comes in, and we're able to help put a plan in place that will work if someone needs it.
Great. And Erin, do you want to take it next?
I'll piggyback off of Ashley, because obviously it's a lot of similar things, right? The sooner you can get in front of someone and the sooner you can start to plan, the better. I am a CFP, so I'm a certified financial planner. So I'm not just a financial advisor. I'm going to sit down with you, have the conversation, and understand truly what your goals are, because you cannot invest someone's assets until you truly understand what they are trying to achieve. So I think sitting down with a planner is very, very important. And again, the sooner you can start the process, the better off we can be, right? Like Anna Marie mentioned, we don't know when our last day is going to be, right? So the sooner we can start planning for that inevitable end, the better we are going to be, and the better off our loved ones will be in the end as well.
And Anna Marie, you're up last.
Like the other lady said as well, it's all very customized and personal. So I sit down with somebody and want to know everything that they have going on, so that we can switch it up if it needs to be, or take a twist and turn, so that everything relates to what they're doing, what their goals are. And then as changes come along, we can look at that. And, we don't displace any other relationships that they already have. We often work in conjunction, both with financial advisors and estate attorneys, so that we can all be on the same page, so that we're satisfying the family's needs in the most appropriate way. And as far as income tax or inheritance tax, please keep in mind that your beneficiary overrides the will. So a lot of people make the mistake of not changing their beneficiary when they remarry or there's a change, and they think that the will overrides that. It's actually the beneficiary.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, ladies. Hope to see you guys soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.